Nobody in the basketball world expected this moment. Not the coaches, not the veterans, and certainly not the millions of fans who have been following the meteoric rise of Caitlin Clark. Because according to multiple reports surrounding the Team USA training environment, something happened behind closed doors that changed the entire conversation around the national program. A rising superstar, a locker room filled with established veterans, and a moment that reportedly left the entire room silent. Some insiders described the tension as the most uncomfortable moment of the entire camp. And while the full truth is still debated, one thing is clear. This wasn't just about basketball. This was about power, respect, and the sudden arrival of the biggest name in women's basketball. And when Caitlin Clark finally spoke up, everything changed. To understand why the atmosphere around the Team USA conversation became so intense, you first have to understand what Caitlin Clark represents. When she played at Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball, Clark didn't just become a star. She became a phenomenon. Television ratings skyrocketed. Arena attendance exploded. And her long-range shooting and playmaking turned her into the most recognizable name in the sport. By the time she entered the Women's National Basketball Association, the league had already experienced a massive surge in interest. And Clark quickly became the centerpiece of that momentum. Now playing for the Indiana Fever, her games routinely generate record-breaking viewership. But with that level of attention comes something else. Pressure. And sometimes, resentment. The tension surrounding Team USA began months before the training environment that insiders described. When the roster for the Olympic team was discussed publicly, Clark's name became the center of debate. Some analysts believed she deserved a spot immediately. Others argued that the national program traditionally favors experienced veterans who have already spent years within the system. When the final roster was announced, Clark was not included. The decision sparked a massive reaction online. Fans questioned the selection process. Sports commentators debated whether the decision was based on basketball strategy or something else entirely. And suddenly the conversation around Team USA became bigger than the roster itself. It became a debate about the future of women's basketball. According to people familiar with the broader discussions around the program, the environment was intense. Not necessarily hostile, but highly competitive. National team camps are built on hierarchy. Veterans who have won championships for years are used to leading the group. And when a new superstar suddenly becomes the face of the sport, that dynamic can become complicated. Some players welcomed Clark's rise. Others reportedly believed the hype around her overshadowed the contributions of athletes who had spent years building the league. This created a complicated atmosphere. Not a public feud, but a clear shift in the balance of attention. Several sports journalists later described a moment during camp discussions that captured the tension perfectly. During a strategy conversation about defensive schemes, Clark reportedly asked questions about how the system was structured. According to people present in the room, the exchange became uncomfortable, not explosive, but tense. Some players believed the discussion highlighted the difficulty of integrating new stars into a program built on long-term chemistry. Others believed it was simply the natural friction of elite competition. But what happened next is what truly fueled the controversy. Clark reportedly stepped away from the situation and left the meeting early. Not dramatically, not angrily, but decisively. And that moment quickly became the subject of widespread speculation. Within hours, the basketball world was buzzing. Fans on social media began debating what the moment meant. Was it frustration? Was it a misunderstanding? Or was it simply the reality of a young superstar adjusting to one of the most competitive environments in international basketball? Sports networks began analyzing the situation. Some commentators defended Clark. Others emphasized the importance of respecting the structure of Team USA. But one thing became obvious. The story had grown far beyond a single moment at camp. It had become a symbol of something bigger. The transition between generations. The truth is, moments like this happen in elite sports all the time. When new superstars arrive, they inevitably challenge the existing hierarchy. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in international soccer. And now we're seeing it in the WNBA. The rise of Caitlin Clark represents a massive shift in attention, revenue, and global interest. And transitions like that are rarely smooth, but they are often necessary for growth. Despite the controversy, Clark has remained focused on basketball. Her performances with the Indiana Fever continue to draw record audiences. And many analysts believe it's only a matter of time before she becomes a centerpiece of future Team USA squads. Because regardless of the debate, one thing is undeniable. Caitlin Clark has already changed the trajectory of the sport. And the story of her relationship with the national program is far from over. So, was this a misunderstanding? A clash of personalities? Or simply the growing pains of a sport entering a new era? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The next chapter in Caitlin Clark's story could redefine the future of women's basketball. And the entire sports world will be watching. The controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark and discussions about USA basketball camps has become one of the most talked about stories in the Women's National Basketball Association era of rapid growth. As Clark rose to national fame with record-breaking performances at Iowa Hawkeyes women's basketball and later joined the Indiana Fever, she quickly became the most visible figure in women's basketball, bringing massive TV ratings, sold-out arenas, and new fans to the sport. However, that level of attention also created intense debate about her role in the broader national team structure, where veteran players traditionally dominate roster spots and leadership positions. When reports surfaced of tense moments and difficult conversations during Team USA-related discussions, fans and analysts immediately began speculating about whether the situation reflected normal competitive pressure or a deeper generational shift within the sport. Some commentators argue that Clark's popularity has accelerated the league's growth faster than anyone expected, while others emphasize the importance of experience and established team chemistry in international competition. Regardless of the interpretation, the situation highlights a larger reality. Women's basketball is entering a new era where media attention, fan expectations, and superstar influence are reshaping the dynamics of teams and national programs, and Caitlin Clark now sits at the center of that transformation.